Hey! I didn't see you there. So I've never done this before. I'm gonna do a book review, and my pencil fell out of my hair. Beware of spoilers, by the way. Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. And I have thoughts. We recently did this book for a book club that I'm in because it's very popular right now, and in fact I know it is going to be a show on Apple TV with Brie Larson. I don't know who else is in it, but Brie Larson's in it, and I don't have anything against her. She's, beautiful Captain Marvel. So I am, did my hair and makeup to resemble Elizabeth Zott a little bit. Elizabeth Zott is the main character. Now, Elizabeth Zott, she's not like the other girls. Elizabeth Zott is a scientist. But she's not just a scientist. She is an athlete. But she's not just an athlete. She's a single mom. But she's not just a single mom. She packs her daughter gourmet lunches and bento boxes or something with a very specific... If you hear that squeaking, by the way, I know that smoke detector needs its batteries changed. I know. Anyway, also, her child is, well, a prodigy because she's 5 years old, reading like 6th grade level or college level practically. And I know that there are genius children out there, but this child, she talks like she has about 40 years experience living on this earth, okay? So it just doesn't, it seems so weird to me. It seems odd. So that brings me to my first point about Lessons in Chemistry, which, as you can gather, I didn't like. Basically, Lessons in Chemistry is about a woman in the 50s and 60s, the late 50s, early 60s. There's a cat. And she is just a young, unmarried woman, and she's very, very intelligent. She, I think, is coded to be autistic on the spectrum or something, and she doesn't really fit in with other people because she is a no-nonsense type of person. She does find her man. His name is Calvin Evans, and he is another genius, like Nobel Prize winning scientist. They work together. They live together, which in the 50s was a no-no. So she's ahead of her time. Okay, so far so good. But yeah, there's more cats behind me. I couldn't connect with Elizabeth because Elizabeth Zott is, not only is she extremely bright and intelligent, she's hot and beautiful and gorgeous, and no one can forget how gorgeous she is. And she's not even trying. See, that's the thing. She's not trying. She says funny and clever things, people laugh. She doesn't even know why it's funny. She's not even trying. She wants to get into rowing because her boyfriend is a big-time rower. And she has never done it, but she's like, well, I'll just read about the physics of it, and I'll just go and try it, and I'll do it. And she's just a perfect rower. She's an athlete. She doesn't have to diet because she eats very well and she just exercises so much. So that's kind of something I want to get into, is the bad feminism, because I think people see her as like feminist figure. She's a scientist. She didn't want to get married and change her name. She didn't want a man to help her do anything. She wanted to raise her child on her own and do it her way. Like, okay, but it's kind of like a white feminism because it's very privileged. And when I say privileged, I mean she is, like, there's a scene when she has her cooking show where she is she holds up a can of soup, and the guy's like, okay, this soup company, they are sponsoring us today, so use this, say something nice about it or use it for your recipe. And she holds it up, she's like, this is poison. Speaking of poison, you can poison your husband with mushrooms, but I'm not going to get into that. Anyway, she's very elitist with the canned soup, because if she was so smart, she would know there's nothing wrong with using preserved food. Canned soup is fine. People have been canning and preserving foods for a long time. She should also know that not everyone has the money or resources to get fresh ingredients all the time. There's such a thing as a food desert, okay? It just seemed a little dramatic for her to say the canned soup was poison. Her kid is supposed to be precocious, but she's basically like a tiny adult, and it just bugged me. And I think the thing about this book is I feel like this book was not written for adults, even though I know a lot of adults like it. I'm not trying to say you shouldn't like it. I'm just saying, you know, fun chemist mom, genius prodigy daughter. She has a cooking show. It's in the 50s and 60s. We can use bright, colorful, mint green cars. It'll be really cool to look at. Oh, and I should mention, there's a talking dog. No, he doesn't open his mouth and words come out, but he thinks like as a human would. And Elizabeth's like, I don't want anyone to have limits, and my dog will learn to speak. There's no reason my dog can't learn English and learn thousands of words. So the dog is kind of narrating sometimes and just talking about what his observations are. The dog's name is 630, by the way. So don't you think that sounds like kind of a fun family movie? Chemist mom, genius child, talking dog. Her kitchen is actually a laboratory. She uses a Bunsen burner to make coffee. Her neighbor's kind of crazy. Her name's Harriet. And then there's her cooking show, and the ladies love it, and it's crazy. But what ends up happening in this book is right away there's a brutal RAPE scene. There is a stabbing with a pencil. There is pedophilia. I don't know what I'm allowed to say. It's very dark. There are some very dark things that happen in this book. So I think Bonnie is someone who is very intelligent. She's also a rower. I think she should have written a book about rowing. I really do. I think she wrote about I'm so annoyed by that. I'm trying to find a quiet room where I can film that has good light, because I've got all my kids here. It's summer. And of course, the one room that I'm in is, it's got the crazy smoke detector that's not working at this second. See, life, doesn't work to my advantage all the time like it does for Elizabeth Zott. Because Elizabeth Zott, she's a chemist, she gets fired for being pregnant, and then she gets to do freelance work because she's so good at being a scientist. The men have to come by and pay her under the table for her expertise. Okay, but the thing that I don't get is, why did she show up at a TV studio for one day and the guy's like, wow, she's gorgeous. So Elizabeth Zott, she shows up at a TV studio one day. She's a freelance scientist, and then she says to this guy who's, I don't know, he's working behind the scenes, and she's like, your daughter's stealing my daughter's lunch. Because, Elizabeth's giving her daughter like leftover lasagna with salad greens and orange slices. I don't remember. But it's not like a PB&J, Elizabeth Zott would never. He works at the studio, and he's like, Elizabeth, I like you. You got spunk. You will be the star of a show about cooking, because I know for a fact you're a good cook. You made some really good lunches for your daughter that my daughter stole, so I think you should have a cooking show. You got a good face for TV. I think you got it. You got something, kid. And of course, she has no interest in it, but she does it because she needs money. And that's fair, right? But what ends up happening is she shows up, and the first day, she acts like she owns the place. And most people don't have time for that shit, okay? I mean, I was annoyed at her in that scene because she was like, I don't want to wear that. I don't want the scene to look like that. This set needs to change. I'm not reading those cue cards. So I get annoyed with characters that are like, I'm not like the other girls, and I don't have to try hard. Because I try so hard. And you know what most people do? Most of us have to try so hard. Now, Elizabeth worked hard at what she did, but when it came to people just being fascinated by her and doing what she wanted and giving her opportunities, everything kind of just fell in her lap. Like being a rower, being in this team and having her own show. All this stuff just kind of fell in her lap only because she was just so captivating. I didn't like how she talked down to religious people. This whole book had an agenda with that. It was like every time they spoke about religious people, they were either just a bunch of pedophiles or they were secretly not like religious. Like the priest she ends up talking to, Wakely, she's like, religious people, they're lying to themselves. That's all religion is. It's just about people trying to, it's a cop-out. People trying to have excuses about why they do things that are bad. And they're like, well, I'm going to heaven anyway because God forgives me. I was a Christian for 30 years. I know for a fact that most of us, a lot of religion actually causes a lot of doubt and self-hate. It's not about trying to get out of, it's not a get out of jail free card. Okay, most of us, most people, they're just trying to have some hope and community, and they're trying to make sense of this chaotic world. And I just don't think Elizabeth was fair. And that's fine if she's not, because her character wouldn't have been fair. But I kind of wish that the priest that she was talking to would have maybe given his side. Because he mostly was just like, yeah, you're right, I'm dumb, I'm stupid. We religious folks, we're just a load of crap, It's a load of crap. I really wanted to like Lessons in Chemistry. Good job, Bonnie. This is your first book, and you struck gold, because this book is now a bestseller, and it is now a series or a movie with Brie Larson. So that's basically a lot of people's dreams. How does it feel to be living my dream, Bonnie? Actually, Elizabeth Zott was living my dream because she had her own freaking show. And she was making a difference in people's lives. She was on the cover of a magazine or two. And she was like, and then her daughter's crying about it, like, you're not happy, mother. You're a chemist. You should belong in the laboratory with your lab coat. And that's fair. Not everyone has the same dreams, but I don't know. She just seemed kind of ungrateful and obnoxious sometimes. I just felt like Elizabeth Zott was a young woman with 2023 sensibilities, and she was dropped into the 50s. And it just seemed odd. I think if this book had none of the crazy violence, like it could have had the misogynistic characters and like her struggling some, but we could have done without the terrible, brutal rape scenes. And, or if she was going to add those, make it less like of a farce, because the dog's talking. The dog has goggles. The dog is helping her in the lab. Like, I really do like the premise. I get it. She wants to help women, and she doesn't want to talk down to housewives. She was like, we're not going to talk down to housewives on my show. I am going to use the chemical names. Like, this is sodium chloride. But she does that in her everyday life, and that's weird. Like, her sink is a eye wash station. What? Have you ever seen an eye wash station? There's a sink eye wash station? No. And then there's the part on her show where she's talking about vinegar, but she uses the technical term for it, like the chemical name, but she doesn't explain what it is. So people have to call in, and they're like, what is that? So there's a scene where everyone at the studio has to stop what they're doing and answer the phone and go, it's vinegar, vinegar, it's vinegar, it's vinegar. So, I don't know. I think if this was a kid's book, it would have been better. I think it could be a good family movie. A young adult book, a kid book, whatever. A Disney film, whatever. Something like that. Okay? It would have been... And look at the cover. I mean, it looks like a beach read. It looks very light. In fact, if I saw this book in a bookstore, I would not pick this book up. It looks like a rom-com. It doesn't look like it would be interesting to me. I would not expect there to be anything dark happening in this book. I know a lot of people would disagree with me. In my book club, people were fair. Like, they understood my points, and I appreciate them. And I'm glad they appreciated my points. I know this video was probably all over the place because I just have a lot of thoughts. I hope you enjoyed seeing my cats behind me. There's Wendy, and here's Oscar. And there is the broken smoke detector, which I will get to. I'm in the guest room, so I didn't even know that smoke detector was beeping. So anywho, goodbye from a person who tries really hard at everything and has imposter syndrome. And Elizabeth, I couldn't relate to you, girl. But you know what? I like you. I like this aesthetic. It's like if an AI was like, what does a feminist look like? Smart, beautiful, isn't trying to look beautiful, isn't trying too hard to be smart. She just naturally is an athlete. Incredible body. Really good in the sack. Oh my God, she's